In Omaha, a food pantry that normally serves as few as 100 people saw just under 1,000 show up on a single day here this week. In Jonesboro, Arkansas, after a powerful tornado struck this week, a food bank received less than half the donations it usually gets after a disaster like that because nervous families held on to what they had. And in Washington State and Louisiana, the National Guard has been called in both places to help pack food boxes and ensure that the distributions run smoothly. Do you realize what's happening in this country? Millions of people right now are just flooding into a charitable system that was never intended to handle a nationwide crisis like this. It's hard enough for these agencies to handle a local tragedy, a regional tragedy, but nationwide, they're being asked to do something that is logistically and from a supply standpoint impossible. And as you can imagine, demand for food assistance is rising, to use Trump's term, like it's never risen before. Just as the food banks across the country are dealing with shortages, not just of donated food, but also volunteer workers. According to the New York Times, a guy named Mike Manning, who is the chief executive at the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, had uniformed National Guardsmen come in to, in his words, take the edge off at what apparently are these increasingly tense distributions of boxes filled with cans of chicken noodle soup and tuna fish and pork and beans. Mike Manning said, quote, "Their presence provides safety for us during distributions," end quote. Well, I would have a question to that, a question that I'm sure somebody has answered somewhere, even though it hasn't come up yet, I don't think. What happens when the food literally runs out? Then what? Now, this guy I'm quoting here, Mike Manning, has worked at this food bank in Baton Rouge for 16 years, including during Hurricane Katrina, and he said he has never witnessed such a combination of need, scarcity, and anxiety. He said, quote, "Crazy," pretty much sums it all up. Stacy Dean, who works at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities in the food assistance area, food assistance policy at that center, she said, "I've never seen anything like it." The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities is a left-leaning research organization in D.C., and Stacy Dean says she has studied food security for more than a quarter century. She said, quote, "People love the phrase, the perfect storm," where it regards all this, but she added, "Nothing has been built for this," what they're dealing with. And then you have the nation's largest network of food banks. It's called Feeding America. You probably heard of it. It has more than 200 affiliates. And it's projected a $1.4 billion shortfall in the next 6 months alone. And last week, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, announced that he was donating $100 million to the group, which is the largest single donation in Feeding America's history, but still less than a tenth of what it needs. So my question would be, seriously now, the billionaires in this country, the multi-billionaires, what is Jeff Bezos' net worth? Is he going to be the first global trillionaire? So $100 million is chicken shit. It's nothing. It's nothing to Jeff Bezos. to feeding America. It is a lifeline. It is something that they desperately need, but it's less than a tenth of what it really needs. And what about the other billionaires? Yeah, what about Bill Gates? Isn't he and his wife Melinda two of the richest people on earth? I realize these people do a lot of good works, but so the fuck what? I mean, if Feeding America has projected over the next 6 months alone that it needs $1.4 billion just to stay even, then why don't the billionaires, $100 million, that is a tenth, less than a tenth of what Feeding America needs. $100 million, less than a tenth. $1 billion handed to this company in whatever manner necessary to make it all legal by Jeff Bezos would be what percentage of his net worth? 1%? 0.75%? Am I biting the hand that feeds me, so to speak? Am I being an asshole about this? No, I'm not. What the fuck does Jeff Bezos need $100 billion for? What do any of these, the billionaire tech people, the Walmart family, what the fuck? So this virus is everywhere in America, and so is hunger all of a sudden. Now, there was a video posted, I guess, on social media somewhere. Where? Facebook? I don't know. But more than 1 million people have viewed this video. It's drone footage of a line of cars waiting for food last week along a bend in the Monongahela River that leads to the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. This line of cars was miles long, miles, to get to a food bank. And a spokesman for that organization in Pittsburgh said that 800 cars were served that day. Another distribution this week drew even more. And here's a quick story. Tinny Mason, 44 years old, was in one of those cars making his first ever trip to a food bank. He said, "We have to stretch every can, every package, everything that we have because we don't know what's around the corner." End quote. He lost his job, this man, as a cook shortly before the outbreak started spreading. And he said the career office where he has been looking for work has closed its doors. There's nothing. And he's still waiting for his unemployment benefits to come through. And he's still waiting for a check from the government that Trump signed with all the dignity and flourish of a fucking dog having diarrhea. I mean, it's just awful. His partner, Crystal Stewart, who's 49, lost her job as at a Residence Inn by Marriott, then briefly found work at a supermarket. But she developed a cough and was forced to isolate while awaiting the results of a swab test. And her test has since come back negative. Mr. Mason, Teeny Mason, described the sight of mile after mile of drivers seeking food as, quote, an eye-opener, mind-blowing, an experience I will never forget, end quote. He said that his partner honked their horn as a gesture of appreciation for the volunteers that handed them the food, then drove home and shared what they had with their neighbors who do not own cars. Ms. Stewart, Mr. Mason's partner, said, quote, if I don't have to worry about food, I can worry about clothes. How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay the car note? Close to 10 million Americans have reported losing their jobs in the second half of March. And the true number, of course, is almost certainly higher. And as it's been reported many times, many of these folks have little or no buffer against the sudden loss of income, even before, and I've mentioned this several times before, the current horror. The Federal Reserve, in a survey, found that 4 in 10 American adults did not have the savings or other resources to cover an unexpected $400 expense. 40% of Americans. And after that economic recovery package was passed and signed into law last month, that promised, payments of up to $1,200 per adult, American adult, nothing. Nothing. Where the fuck is it? Nothing. Son of a bitches. Hey, Truth Seekers, while we're practicing safe social distancing, it's a great time to treat yourself with some seriously delicious, responsibly sourced coffee. Awaken to pleasure with River Moon Coffee. But don't take my word for it. Here are 2 recent reviews. Quote, "We sell River Moon Coffee at Marine General Store, and I can't seem to keep up with customer demand. Not only is the coffee excellent, but the philosophy behind it, the careful sourcing and constant research to bring a quality product to customers, appeals to the hearts of our community." End quote. And here's one from a fellow Malloy listener. Quote, "I love this coffee. I buy it in 5-pound bags. I especially love the Truth Seeker blend." End quote. Sounds like they're planning ahead for the apocalypse. Anyway, support a progressive small business that supports this program. Go to MikeMalloy.com and click on the River Moon Coffee link on the main page. You'll thank me later.